a coach, I like to help working moms think outside of the box a little bit so that they can make life easier for them and raise their family well. And this week's video is about how to engage with your children anywhere you are so that you can have that fulfilling relationship and meaningful relationship with them. Video is also more about understanding who you are as a person, as a mom, and your personality. It's more about that than it is about your children. So the first thing that I wanted to tell you is if you are more of a goal-oriented mom as opposed to socially oriented mom, in order to engage with your children, your brain needs to so the way that if you are a goal-oriented mom, the way that your brain would process this is that everything is a checklist for you, kind of like, okay, I spent time with my kids, check. I washed the dishes, check. I spent time with my husband, check. I cleaned the bathrooms, check, that kind of thing. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with that. I would suggest that, you embrace who you are as a mom, whether you're goal-oriented or socially oriented. It doesn't matter as much as what matters on what you do with who you are. So that's why I kind of called this video Thinking Outside of the Box. So for the goal-oriented moms, for the socially oriented moms, that's why I picked the goal-oriented moms. For the socially oriented moms, it is more natural for them to spend time with people, right? So for the goal-oriented mom, because life is more of a checklist, more of goals, more of tasks, the way to be able to engage with your children is knowing practical ways on how to do that. For example, like if you need to register in your brain that you've actually spent time with your kids so that you don't feel guilty about not spending time with your kids, use a timer or make sure you schedule it, and then once you figure out how much time you spend with your kids, then decide to focus on your kids for that amount of time. If it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, there's nothing wrong with setting a timer. So go ahead and schedule it and put it in your calendar to say, okay, from 1 to 1:30, I'm just going to be focused on my kids. I feel like I am half and half, like half goal-oriented and half socially oriented. But I do schedule my quality time with my kids. Again, I'm a working mom, right? And, most moms that follow these videos are also working moms. So I know what that's like. And there's so much on our to-do list that we feel like we neglect our family and what's important to us. And then, we feel guilty after that. So what I'm trying to say is that if you think that way, then, you can at least use a timer or decide for yourself how much time you can spend with your children, whether, again, it's 20 minutes or an hour or 30 minutes. But along with that, making the decision that you're not going to get up while in that 30-minute zone. You're not going to get up and try to load the dishwasher and then come back and then play again and then get up and then do something else. The second thing that I'd like to point out is that if you are easily distracted, if you're the kind of mom that's easily distracted, I feel like most moms are easily distracted. Why don't you schedule a mother-daughter date or a mother-son date, or take them out of the house so that you're not constantly thinking about the laundry that you have to fold, or the bathroom that hasn't been cleaned in the last 2 weeks, that sort of thing. I know for me, naturally, I am it doesn't come easy to me for me to sit down and play. It doesn't also come easy to me to sit down and do crafts. Although my daughter, I can tell you that when we do crafts, her face lights up. And so I do try to incorporate that a little bit, but again, it's not natural for me. So thinking outside of the box, what's natural for me is talking and listening and processing. And I'm interested in what my children think and how they think and how their day went. Because I am by trade a talk therapist and coach, so I do tend to take them out a lot, and we go on afternoon dates after school, and we spend time together just asking each other questions, and that's a good thing. So again, if you're easily distracted, find a different place where you can spend time with them. Now, the park is a little tricky because with the park, unless you're having a picnic, like a family picnic, you're not really talking to each other or spending time with each other. I know with us, when we go to the park, it's more like they're going on the slides or they're running around and things like that. So make sure that you try to balance it out. The third thing is that when engaging, if your motivation is to engage with your children, make sure that you use less words. Less is better with children, even with teenagers. And again, I will make a separate video about how to bond with your teenagers, but with kids, with children, what needs to happen is that when you need to explain something to them, make sure that you're concise and that you use words that they know, like they know, what that means and things like that. Because the more words that you use, the more that it becomes about you and not them. The fourth thing is that when you are trying to help them with something, like if there's a problem or if there is an issue, and you want them to do something, make sure that it's like one point at a time or one skill at a time, and try not to lecture, because lecturing is not really engaging. When you say engage, it's like a two-way thing. So when you're lecturing, you're the one that's more like explaining, and there's no feedback coming in. So just make sure that when you are talking or communicating with your children, you differentiate between lecture time and just merely engaging with them. Last thing that I want to share with you about engaging with your children is that you make sure you suspend all opinions and judgment at the end of the conversation, or if they ask you. Make sure that you have listening ears when you are spending time with your kids, because with listening ears, you are able to ask open-ended questions, and you're not, pointing things here and there, but more so as you're not giving opinions all the time. But when you are asked, be ready to also give your opinions. But kids, they most of the time just want someone to listen to them and not be judged. So creating that safe space for them to be able to talk about their feelings and what they're thinking is a very good thing. So thinking outside of the box, if you want to engage more with your children anywhere you are, you can use a timer if you have to, so that you're not always getting up in the middle of conversations or in the middle of craft time, in the middle of your dates, like you're not, picking up your phone or talking to other people, turning around, things like that, and that you're actually focused on that time with your child or your children. If you are easily distracted, make sure that you pick a different spot to maybe have your date with your children, so that again, you're not always thinking about what needs to be done at home. Thirdly, make sure that it's not the amount of words that you say to them. So the less words you use, the better, because the more words you use, then it turns out to be more about you and not them. Fourth, make sure that you differentiate between lecture time and engagement with your children. Talk about one point or one skill at a time. If there is a concern that you want to bring up to them, because you want them to have that time to actually apply what you are teaching them. And lastly, when you are engaged and focused with your kids, suspend all opinions until the end, and interject only when asked, so that you create that safe space for them to tell you what they're feeling and what they're thinking.